Welcome to the Lounge with Travefy Academy, where we get to hear from travel industry voices and experts to learn more about their story and what they see on the horizon for travel professionals. And I'm Stephanie Grice, and our guest today is Sheila Folk, who is CEO and founder of Travel Industry Solutions. So welcome to the Lounge, Sheila. We're so excited to have you today.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to talk to you. We haven't had a chance to talk that much recently.
I
And
know you've been busy. And I know that a lot of the listeners are like, oh my gosh, travel industry solutions. Because we at Travefy hear so much about travel industry solutions. I know that we partner together and work together, but it's so cool to watch how far you guys have come. So before we dive into everything, our topic today, can you share more about yourself and just how did you find yourself in the travel industry, but specifically also travel industry solutions?
yeah, so I didn't find myself in the travel industry like the normal way that normal people would get into this. My background is in hospitality. I worked in a lot of different verticals in hospitality. I was an assistant vice president for a global company that worked in risk management. But when I decided to open my travel business, it wasn't because I liked traveling or I was booking all my friends to Disney. It was just a way to make money from home. I could have sold widgets. And, I'm a widow. And so I wanted to be at home with my daughter and have that flexibility. So when a neighbor suggested I become a travel agent, I was like, oh, sounds good. Sign me up. How do I do it? And when I got into it, I went, holy cow. There's so much to know. I've never been in a position, and let me tell you, I've been in a lot of very high level positions. I've worked in a lot of startups, global companies, but I've never worked in something where I was required to know how many paddle strokes it is from the beach in Thailand to the limestone rock off the shore, or what are the entry requirements for this particular country, or how many steps it is from room 132 to the pool. It was just mind-boggling what consumers expected us to know. And then because I had that background in risk, I noticed a lot of gaps in the industry and a lot of risk exposures and a lack of tools, really, that were available, that were affordable, on demand, easy to understand. Someone would explain to me how I used them in my business, all of those things. And so I created Travel Industry Solutions, and it's been about 4 years now. And we've built technology around the product since then. We have team members all over the world today. And it's pretty exciting. It's not sexy. Okay. What we do is not sexy, but it's indispensable and it's really needed. And as I start to get more and more and more deeper and deeper and deeper into this industry on a global level, I start to see how these problems that travel agents, operators, others inside of the industry are exposed, and the problems are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's so true. And I know, before you said it's not a sexy topic, but it is a necessary one. So necessary, like very much one of the most necessary things of your business.
Well, and I think the big thing too, and I know you want to ask me some specific questions, but one of the big things I think is that in addition to not having enough resources available for travel advisors, there's really a lack of understanding of why some of their solution providers are implementing specific controls or making specific moves with their technology or their training, and they don't fully understand why some of the decisions are being made. And let me just put this into context, two-factor authentication. People get bent out of shape over two-factor authentication. And, you should do it this way. You should have it this way. You should have it 10 different ways. Well, as technology companies, we have to not only ensure that your data is secure, your client's data is secure. We have to comply with certain laws. We also have to comply with our partners who are requesting copies of our audits that we're doing internally. We are insuring our companies to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars for your benefit because we have to think about cyber breaches. And honestly, agents should be thinking about breaches when they're traveling with their laptops. What if they left their laptop somewhere and somebody got into their laptop and then they got into their technology solutions? It's a much bigger, way more complicated situation than just eliminating certain elements like two-factor authentication. It's complicated and it's not convenient. I get it. It's not convenient, but you have to make a decision like, do you want to work with partners who are doing all of the right things for you? Or do you want to work with partners who aren't putting you and your customers first?
100%. It's so true. And I know that's a big one, especially with Travefy, the two-factor authentication and all of that. And there's so many little things that we have to, since we're PCI compliant at Travefy, this is a good example, is every year our whole team has to go through like training and little things like, if you're even at home or at a coffee shop, you cannot walk away from your computer without like turning it off. That requires like a password log back it, things that I would never think of, that I just all of these things, because you never know. You need to make sure you support yourself so you don't have to deal with really bad negativity drawbacks.
Well, and that's one of the biggest risks in it. And it really ties to one of the topics that we were going to discuss in what are one of the biggest risk factors that agents and our industry is exposed to. And it is data security. We now have to do that inside of TIS. We ended up hiring a risk assurance person. We have to go through this audit. It was painful, especially for me. I'm a non-technical founder. And so being a non-technical founder makes it a little bit challenging since we don't have an on-staff CTO. So we have a fractional person and who does that, and now the risk assurance and having to go through all the PCI stuff. It really opened my eyes up to not only what we need to do from a technology standpoint, but what I need to do as an owner for my remote workers, because everybody is remote inside of TIS. So it's really no different for travel advisors who are home-based or working remotely. You really do need to think about data security and, your password management. Password management is a really, really, really big deal, using complex passwords. Also thinking about getting cyber insurance for yourself. I mean, even an advisor can get a cyber policy for, a couple $100 or less. You can tack it onto your E&O insurance. I was just talking to Berkshire Hathaway about it. They're going to come on and do some stuff for us, but that's something that these advisors are overlooking, but it can protect you and can protect your customers.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. And I know you've already started explaining some of the, the things that you can do. And I know we'll get into so many more, but what are some of the most common legal risks that travel agents face? And like, what are those typically, and how can they avoid them?
Well, data security is one of them, but I would say if we're just looking at it from a pure legal standpoint, like legal documentation, communication, copying and pasting from your biz bestie, not a good idea. Not a good idea. A lot of people don't understand that there are definitions inside of legal agreements. You can take a provision that may sound good to you and plop it into your terms and conditions that you got from somebody else, even if it was from a lawyer. And now you could negate that an additional provision inside of your legal documents. So not a good idea to copy and paste from your biz bestie. Another one is this concept of one and done. I'm going to tell you right now, this is a fast moving, risky industry. Contracts are not one and done in this business. You need to at least have your contracts, whether it's your terms and conditions or your independent travel agent agreements, your IC contracts. Definitely all of your website policies need to be reviewed, updated at minimum a year. You need somebody who is monitoring laws on a continuous basis and making sure that they inform you of what those changes are, making those updates to your agreements. I'm going to tell you right now, I mean, just in the last year, we've had so many issues. We've had wars on foreign soil. We've had Department of Labor updates, you know, as it pertains to independent contractors. Now we have the DOT ruling. And what's interesting is everybody's only focusing on the merchant of record. What about the 98% of agents who have knock-on impacts? They're working with package suppliers. They need to know what those protocols are, how they're going to communicate with their customers, what are the additional provisions that they need to include in their terms and conditions, what do they need to communicate via email, when, why, how. Nobody's talking about that except for us at TIS. We're developing a whole big guidance package around it. And we've been meeting with these suppliers and these airline consolidators and ASTA, and, you know, this is moving. And after this, there's going to be something else. So one and done. Get it out of your mind. It's not a one and done situation. And you really need somebody who can help you to understand it and integrate some of these changes into, you know, your business processes. And then I would say the next big thing that we see just in a big way, and this is a little bit related to data privacy, but from a different angle, is so many agents are breaking the law and they don't even know it. They don't have a privacy policy on their website. If you are advertising, let's say you're advertising on Facebook or someplace, you're collecting data on those site visitors. Those are called cookies. You have to have a policy that states how you're going to use your website visitors' data. If you have forms on your site, what are you going to do with that data? How are you going to use it? Will it be distributed? What are their rights to have it removed from your systems? You're required by law to have a privacy policy if you are collecting information on your site visitors, even if it's through cookies. So those are three biggies.
Yeah, I bet there's people listening. They're like, "Oh no," all these things, but it's okay. These can be like taken care of.
Well, you know, and with privacy, there is a proposed bill right now that does have legs. We obviously in TIS, we don't have one lawyer who dabbles in lots of different areas of law. We have different people who specialize, but there is a bill that has legs that could potentially go into effect near the election, which would be a nationwide privacy policy. And that would be huge because right now it's a little bit disjointed because you have Colorado and California and Virginia and all these different states kind of doing something a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, and not to jump ahead of our questions, but how do you stay on top of that ever evolving information?
It's a lot. And I think that people don't understand how much really goes into all of what we do on the backside from a legal standpoint. We do have services available, obviously, because we have sort of our little network of lawyers who specialize. They are able to stay abreast of changes that are happening inside of the scope of what they do. You know, we're getting ready to expand to Canada. And I know it's been really high demand since the day we launched, but we're finally doing it. I just got the first draft of agreements and I was talking to my partner. My partner is a lawyer. Okay. He he has his own, business consulting firm. He is a lawyer, but he sources all of our legal. He has worked in the global landscape. He does a lot of multi-jurisdictional law. He works with governments overseas, travel tech companies, etc. So his network is huge because of the vast experience, the fact that he's lived all over the world. But I was talking to him about the Canada stuff, and he goes, "Yeah, we have 4 different lawyers in Canada that we're working." I go, "4? Canada's small. Like, why do we need 4 different lawyers in Canada?" He goes, "Well, we need one for this, and we need one for this, and we need one for this." So anyway, that's the long answer to your question is it's a lot. And so, when we hear people say, "Well, I can just go get this cheaper someplace else," I go, "Okay, go ahead." Because there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, there really is. Well, and a couple podcast episodes ago, I had Jeff Ment, who's an attorney on as well, and he was talking about like the DOT refunds and FTC stuff, and I was like, how do you stay up? And he listed some resources, but it really is like just paying attention. And yeah, it is a lot. And using a service like yours is obviously very helpful too, because that's your job, is to make sure your stuff is staying up to date as well.
Yeah, and he has a lot of customers that are in the operator space. He does, exceptional work, and he really is, and I know he has other lawyers in his practice too. So he really is forced to spend a great deal of time looking at things from a global perspective based on what I understand about his practice and his client base.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's so much, and not to keep piling on more and more things, but what about, I know this is a really big one, the F word, and not that one, fraud. Fraud is a huge concern for travel agents. So what are some strategies to help them from credit card scams and all the fraud that happens?
Yeah, this is really huge. It's really big on our radar too. We've been working with chargeback gurus. We've been working with some risk managers inside of the different credit card companies to really understand the space a little bit more. What is happening? Forward thinking, forward looking. What are the tools that are available for advisors today? And what's really interesting is that there are tools available today, and a lot of the credit card companies use them, that will allow you to enter in details, a card, and then details about an individual, and the detection rate of synthetic identity is pretty high. So it has a high detection rate. So synthetic identities are really on the rise, and they're no longer part of the dark web. And so when in this space, we hear travel advisors talking about red flags like last minute bookings. Oh, that's a red flag. But with synthetic identities, what is happening now is they're developing these identities over a period of time. And it's not always like this last minute booking, because they have identification that's tied to a real person, that's tied to a real credit card, but they've stolen that identity. And so they're using these identities over a longer period of time. But from what I have been told is there's always at least one trigger. Something doesn't match up. And there are databases that are available that these companies are using that have sophisticated detection tools to identify what doesn't match. Is it the email? Is it the phone number? What is the one little thing that does not match? I would love to incorporate a tool like that into TIS. I think it would be amazing, because there isn't anybody in the industry who has actually incorporated something like that into our platforms. And so it would give comfort to those travel advisors who are maybe new, or who have new people coming to them, And then they could have some sort of a detection tool in place, right? To verify, a verification tool up front. Obviously, prevention is a big part of it as well. What's interesting in the US, our laws are not near as stringent as other places. I mean, we have GDPR, we're nowhere near that. But other countries now require 3D secure. We don't require that here. So I know like the big Maldives DMC that works with Covelli. It's a law. I met with him. It's a law in the Maldives. You have to have 3D secure, and a lot of travel advisors, get rubbed the wrong way because their clients are being required to do 3D secure. But that's a preventative measure to protect you and the consumer against fraud. And I do see it moving to the US quicker than we probably think. But preventative measures, 3D secure, CVV verification, address verification, your own bit of multi-factor authentication, I guess, if you want to call it, like a Zoom call, a phone call, a copy of identification. So prevention can really help deter some of the fraud that is occurring out there. And those are a couple of ways.
That's true. I was literally thinking, I was like, wait, like, can you do a Zoom meeting? That would work. But quick question though, is what does 3D mean necessarily? Like, what do they have to do?
So basically, when they go to make a payment online, they've got to provide additional forms of identification at the time of making payment.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that is really interesting. Well, and one thing too that we just put into Travefy is we have now where they can upload documents, and that is safe and secure. And the main reason behind that was more of like a passport thing, like making sure that they, they entered their information correctly. But that is a very good point that, got to make sure that people are actually human. And who
That's
they
right,
say they are.
who they are.
Yeah.
And AI will really start to change the fraud game as well. I don't know how many people realize this, but there are $3 trillion a year of of transactions in this industry that have legal implications. That's globally. $150 billion a year in chargebacks. And I will tell you, 65% of the chargebacks are first party fraud and card not present. And so it's really, really important that you have, since it is first party card not present fraud, that's a combination. It's both card not present, first party. I'm really referring to it that way. It's really important that you have a very detailed audit trail and signatures on your documents. I'm going to tell you right now that, and I'm not going to name names, but there are CRMs in this space that do not have audit trails. They're not real audit trails. I can tell you I can tell you the two that actually have real audit trails, and that's IP address, the email address. That's Travefy and and we're not a CRM, so I don't want to put us in the CRM space because we're a legal platform and we have the audit trail. That's it. So, ticking a box might be great, but if you do not have the documentation behind what IP address ticked that box, or when, the email tied to it, the name, it's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything.
100%. And I tell people that all the time that, Travefy is the one that CRM end to end. And we like to just say like, it's like end to end PCI compliant. But like, yeah, what that means is it really is collecting everything. And it's so incredible. And if anyone who's used it, you can go look and see, and you can see literally down to the second that they looked at it, they clicked
That's
on
right.
it, they signed it, and all of that. And so, yeah, it's
If you
so
don't
fun.
have that, your defense is pretty weak.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you can't just go, oh, I've made this little digital signature, because anybody can copy your signature and sign in a box. But if you add the other fortifications or the other components to it, those are the things that are going to help you to really defend chargebacks, lawsuits, and other issues that crop up. Because I know that when we show people inside of our industry that are on the insurance side, the payment side, anything having to do with insurtech, fintech, they always go, oh my gosh, like this is the most robust that I've seen. And I say, well, there's one other person that has this. And they go, okay, that's good.
So crazy. I know. Isn't that it's well, and I've learned so much just by having to do this with Travefy. And
I
we
know.
did a webinar. It was Scott from our team, and I did a webinar on best practices. Like, because how would you know? I mean, you would never know. Like, people, there's post-it notes of this information there, and it's just all these things. And it's like, it's actually so easy just to use a tool like Travefy, where you just like get your information,
Yeah.
they give it secured, and that's it. You're done. Like, it's so much easier. Like, sleep easy at night.
It is. And I think that there will be other people that come around and adopt it, but it is so crucial in this industry when you think about the magnitude of the risk exposure inside of this industry. Many of us get into this industry because we want to travel more, right? We love planning travel. The motivations are so much different. They want to have extra income for their family, and they're already working a full-time job. And I always just say, it's not different than any other business. You have risk exposures like any other business. You just happen to be selling a fun product. But now, where you had your nursing job and you were a nurse practitioner for a pediatric office, you only had to know what was in this little square. But as a travel advisor, you've got to understand the world, and not just the products, but what are the other exposures that you're going to have inside of your business. It's just a whole lot more complicated. And I really wish we would have an industry exam to get into this business. I think it's really, really needed, not just a certification, but you need to have some sort of even if it was like similar to like a real estate exam or something.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, like just knowing what you need and all of that, which is really
Mhm.
important. And on that too, I know there's a lot of employees and independent contractors that the ICs are really important and critical part of their business. So on that, with the talk of having all these new people come in, it's kind of on the if you're bringing in ICs to make sure that they're up to date and up to speed. So what steps can they take, just to reduce those risks associated with like newer people coming in?
Well, you just mentioned earlier on the call, Stephanie, that you guys have training. And I know as part of the whole PCI audit process, which is unbelievably painful to go through. I mean, unbelievably painful. Part of the process is the corporation has to develop their own policies with their employees and with their contractors, because it even does extend to contractors. So I think that there are some pretty basic things that need to happen. First of all, it all starts with ethical leadership, right? Tone at the top. Tone at the top is really, really important. So the tone that you're setting in your agency is going to trickle down, because what do they say? I'm not going to say the word. Uh, Starts with an SHIT, flows
Oh,
downhill.
yep, I have heard that term before.
right?
Very
Goes
true.
downhill. So it starts with ethical leadership. And I think the other thing too is anonymous reporting is not a bad thing. And this would really apply to maybe if you had a brick and mortar or everybody like worked together very closely. Maybe, you guys were all in the same city and you got together frequently. Communication, but internal training. I think it's really important for you to train your ICs on the importance of data security. What does that look like? You need to have policies in place. If you are letting your ICs work under your brand and they're using your email system, what are the guidelines for utilizing the email system, clicking on links, using other systems? And I think also as the owner of your agency, you should be doing a better job asking your third-party suppliers how they're protecting your data. What type of tools do they have in place? So both of us, Travify and TIS, we both use TokenX for our credit card vault. Well, and this is what I mean by the asking your suppliers. TokenX publishes their PCI audit, on their site. Now they're a global company, but you could simply reach out to your suppliers and say, what, is your product audited? What steps are you doing to ensure your employees are getting trained so that I can rest assured? And then kind of you can translate that a little bit into your employees and your ICs, educating them on what they need to do and be mindful of. I hate all these spamming links. I swear I get like 6 of them a day, the from is from me and the to is to me. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, we
You
get them
need to
too.
pay this invoice, click here. Oh, okay, yeah, right. Like I'm going to do that. You're going to inject something onto my laptop and, likely get into my data. I think it's training on data. So that's one piece. Also, it's interesting. We've been working with a lot of, I would say, medium-sized agencies, small to medium-sized agencies that have 5 to 50 ICs under them. And as part of their joining that agency, prior to joining, not after, they are requiring certain things of their ICs. So, they're asking questions about what kind of legal protection and tools do you have in place? They're asking about their E&O insurance. They're asking about their training background and, what type of training they've received, if they've been new, if they're new to the industry. So we're seeing a lot of trends, in that area as well. But making available the resources as it pertains to data security, as it pertains to ethics, fraud, legal protection, all of those things are really key components because it only takes one.
Well, what's really funny that you mentioned this is so important is we get this all the time at Travify where someone pretends to be our CEO, David. They send us an email and they're like, hey, what is your phone number? I need to purchase a gift card or something like that. Like we get it all the time. We've started to troll with them. Sometimes it's kind of fun, but that is also a big one. And it's really sad because I see sometimes on the news, there's certain ones out there that I'm like, oh, whoa, I might have fallen for that. That's kind of scary. So that's important that you mentioned that too, that, hey, if there's someone trying to pretend like it's me, double check the email. It's a lot of that going on.
There's a lot of that
Mhm.
going. So, and I think that if you can document specific policies or internal controls that you want to put in place inside of your agency and recommend, I know that they're independent contractors, you can't force certain things, but if they are using your systems, there are certain guidelines that you can place around the use of certain systems, right? Because they are yours. But people are just focused on giving marketing training. They're focused on how to use VAX. They're focused on other areas, everything but the security of the business.
Yeah. It's so true. It's very true on there. Okay, so I have one last question for you here, and this is going to be a big one, I feel like.
Okay.
Okay. When it comes to charging fees, and I wanted to bring this up because I know when we were chatting before about really big key things you wanted to talk about during this. So some travel agents don't charge fees. And I didn't even think about this, but what are the risks of this and how can charging fees both benefit the agent and the client? How does that tie into this topic?
Yeah, so not charging fees is a big risk because you are risking your financial stability. First and foremost, you're risking your financial stability. Whether it's charging a planning fee, a change fee, or a cancellation fee. I don't know about you, but I'm not here to work for free. I've got to go buy groceries. I've got to go buy those Lululemon shorts for my 14-year-old daughter, while I shop at Walmart for my t-shirts and my shorts. I mean, you are risking financial stability inside of your business. And let me pause for a second. Okay, let's talk about, even if you don't want to do a planning fee, all right, there is a perceived value. You're risking the perceived value of your services, your knowledge, the demand by consumers to work with you, financial instability, but you're also what's the word I'm looking for? Minimizing any sort of client commitment to you. So let's talk specifically about like change and cancellation fees. And this is the way that I talk about it when people are setting up the terms. Like we have an agency profile and you plug in, we ask you a few questions. Do you charge a change or cancellation fee? I always say put in a minimum. When I was working my agency, when I was actively booking a lot, I charged $25 per person per component. And here's why. You're inevitably going to get that gal, it's a Saturday night, she's hanging out at her house by her pool with her neighbors, and she's got her laptop and she's had a few glasses of wine. She's already booked the trip with you. But she found something better online for a tour. So she wants you to go and cancel the tour that's part of the package. And she's gone ahead and booked the tour online that she wants. And oh, by the way, she's also added another night stay in Paris because that tour, the new tour, was going to take all day long. So she was going to miss her half day free day. Well, that's great. That's fine. But now what you have to do is not only do you have to cancel the tour for that day, you have to likely change her travel insurance and increase the premium on it because she's added another day. There may be a domino effect downstream. So maybe you've had to change her transfers to the airport or a train ticket or something else. That's a lot of work. You could literally spend hours changing all of those components. In addition, you've had a reduction in your commission because you've gotten rid of that tour. She's paid for a hotel on her own, whatever it is. So if you look at it on a per component basis, it's always going to affect, I would say 99% of the time, it's going to affect multiple components. So when you start thinking about things like that can secure your financial stability, it's not to penalize anybody, but you need to protect your time. And your clients need to know it. And if you present it like, I never got pushback. Oh, $25 per person per component. Oh, sure, no big deal. Easy peasy, but it protected my time. And, or at least it paid for my assistant to go in and make all the changes herself. So it's really, really important to think about that. Some people do a percentage. I think that's a great way to look at it as well, especially if you're doing higher priced trips. But there are risks of not charging fees, and it is financial stability. Also, it will reduce cancellations and changes by your customers if it's very clear that if they, go on a wild goose chase after they've deposited with you, or, you have that retired person who sits down at their computer every day and looks for the latest cruise sale and wants you to refare it every single day. Fine, I'll do it. It's $25. I'll call, pay my invoice.
Such a good point. It really is. And I know that the charging fees, it can be, a debate. There's a lot of people who feel very passionate both ways. But that is the most important thing about it all, is that it is just giving you that, minimizing the risk, which is what we're talking about today. And so it's a very, very good point.
Yeah. And even if you don't want to charge planning fees, that's okay. I just really encourage you to protect your time and charge a change or a cancellation fee and come up with a system that's comfortable for you. And it took me a while to get to that point. I did a lot of cruises early on, and cruises are easy, but they're also a pain in the butt, especially if you have low priced cruisers who are always looking for the latest promo that comes out. And that the promo doesn't apply to them. Over time, you learn all these things. It doesn't apply to you. Very rarely does it apply. But they send you on a wild goose chase at least once or twice a month to, try to look into it. But it takes time, and time is money. So I learned to give one refare. That was it. I was only going to do it one time. So you better make it a good one, because after that, every time I have to pick up the phone and call to learn about the promotion and institute any change, I'm going to charge you for it.
Which is fair. I think
it's totally fair.
Yeah.
It's totally fair. If otherwise, go book direct, and then you're not going to incur those charges.
And time is money, which we all know.
Time is money.
Yeah, no, those are really great points. Oh, I love all this. I know everyone's like, whoa, this is so much great information. It's really good. But I do want to mention, where can everyone find Travel Industry Solutions, or find you? Like, where's the best place online to find you and get more information?
So it's just travelindustrysolutions.com. So what we do is we provide on-demand, industry-tailored, user-specific legal documents for every aspect of your business. You go in, you sign up for a plan, you set up your agency profile. Your agency profile, it is what drives the dynamic creation of legal documents for your business based on your data inside of your agency profile. So it takes about 3 minutes, and then your legal documents are created for you. There are some that are user guided. There are inputs like an independent travel agent agreement. We don't know what your structure is going to be, but we provide you the framework for the document. We guide you through the completion, but we do have the e-sign and the vault out of convenience for those who don't have a system that provides that. And then lots of other tools, workflows, emails, education. We bring in outside educators, and we'll soon have integrations with different partners. So if you don't want to use our system to execute documents with certain partners, you'll be able to authenticate between our systems, and our documents will be driven into their platform. So Travefy is the first. I know that the team is working on a few API endpoints that we need, and that will be coming. With tech, we always think it's going to happen sooner, but then something happens. But I hope it is very soon. I know that the Travefy team is working on that, and I've been touching base with David. So we're really excited, because how much I love not only the product, But Stephanie, I look at the people, and the people are really, really important to me because I think it's an indication of your culture. And so, David has been such a wonderful mentor to me, and he's always available when I have questions because it has been hard being a non-technical founder. And Scott is, just amazing, and but it's really important to look at the culture of the company too when you start looking at partnerships with others.
Yeah, and it's so exciting. We can't wait to have that integration. And I know all that stuff is over my head, but I just know I understand once they get it, like how it works once for our side, what we see.
Yeah.
But for back end, I don't get it. It's a good thing it's not me back there trying to figure that one out. We have a good team back there doing that. So we'll keep everyone updated too. And I know that we'll have you back on too. Like we'll do Facebook Live, all kinds of good stuff, making sure that everyone knows how that will work and when it's out. And it's so exciting. But I just want to thank you so much again. I know that it is wild and crazy right now time for you. It's very busy, just keeping up with everything like we were just talking about, but also running the business. And I know there's a lot of new people. Like I said, we hear about travel industry solutions all the time from our users. And so it's really awesome. So thank you so much for your time today, because this is awesome. Yeah, this is
catching up.
I know. Oh, then there's always so much. Like this needs to be probably a quarterly, because there's always things that are happening. Like we were talking about the technology, the current events, all the things. There's always so much. But just thank you again. And thanks to everyone for tuning in to this episode of the Lounge of Travefy Academy. And of course, thank you to our special guest, Sheila, for joining us today. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of the latest episodes. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation today and join us again. But for now, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next flight.